My name was Amir. I was a Muslim doctor, a beacon of hope in my conservative community in Kuala Lumpur. Respected and trusted, I wore my faith like armor, rigid and unyielding. Yet beneath the surface of my disciplined exterior, I fought a silent battle. Each prayer felt like an echo and a vast emptiness, each ritual just a mask to hide my questions. I believed I was serving a higher purpose. And then came the day I didn't just question faith. I faced death itself. In the sterile confines of the ICU, a routine shift turned into a nightmare. I slipped into a dark void, a world where time ceased to exist. It was there, in the depths of despair, that I encountered a figure radiant with light. Jesus called my name, piercing through the darkness with a profound truth. He revealed the hidden shackles of my faith, the distractions cloaked in tradition, and the urgency of the spiritual war that raged unseen. I awoke with my soul ignited, yet shackled to the very beliefs that had defined me. Among friends who turned their backs and family who labeled me a heretic, a storm of fear and doubt enveloped me. I felt the weight of my old self pressing down, desperate to cling to the familiar yet drawn irresistibly toward a new truth. My heart was torn. I longed for freedom, but chains of expectation held me tight. In the shadows, I began my quest for answers, studying the book that spoke of love and grace, and secretly gathering with those who had, like me, tasted the bitter fruit of doubt. Each revelation brought both solace and strife, a paradox of liberation intertwined with the pain of loss. Today, I stand on the precipice of my calling. I must break free from the silence that has bound so many before me. My mission is clear: to share the truth I've discovered, even if it means risking everything I once held dear. Join me as I journey through the shadows, from doubt to faith, from fear to liberation, wondering where your path leads. In the quiet moments, isolation enveloped me like a thick fog. I often found myself reflecting on Jesus, revelations, his voice still resonating in my mind, urging me to seek the truth beyond the confines of tradition. I yearned to explore these revelations further, to delve into the meanings behind the messages I had received. Yet, the fear of discovery loomed large. It gripped me, squeezing out the courage I had mustered. I longed for knowledge and understanding, but every step I considered felt fraught with danger. How could I continue my journey toward awakening while knowing it could lead to further alienation? Despite the threats of potential backlash and my family's disappointment, I found solace in the idea that I was not alone. I began to look for ways to quietly seek knowledge, connecting with online communities of fellow seekers who had also experienced awakenings. These late-night conversations with others who had faced their own battles ignited a spark of hope within me. We exchanged stories, not just about our experiences, but about the broader implications of our awakening in a world filled with deception. Each shared insight fueled my determination to stand firm in the truth I had begun to grasp, and reassured me that my journey was part of something larger. The tension manifested daily as I navigated my dual existence. In public, I wore the mask of a devoted Muslim doctor, outwardly conforming to the expectations laid upon me. But in the shadows, I was a man in search of revelation, desperate to unravel the hidden agendas that clouded our understanding of faith and spirituality. An urgency consumed me, pushing me forward, and with every bit of knowledge I gained, I felt the chains of fear beginning to loosen. I realized that my journey, while painful, was necessary, not just for my liberation, but to awaken others who might still be trapped in the web of deception. As I prepared to face the realities of a life completely altered by my experience, I felt hope's hand guiding me, urging me to embrace the next chapter of my life with courage and conviction. After my awakening in the ICU, I felt profoundly altered, burdened with questions that had once been unthinkable for me. The encounter with Jesus had opened my eyes to a reality I couldn't ignore, and I quickly found myself on a quest for truth, eager to reconcile my past with the new light I had received. I began exploring the Bible, something I had been discouraged from doing under the weight of my previous beliefs. Each page felt alive, resonating with the truths I'd recently unearthed. Stories I had heard before began transforming into profound lessons, illuminating the deception I had been entangled in for too long. In those quiet hours, I sought out testimonies from other individuals whose paths mirrored mine. These stories filled me with both comfort and urgency. They echoed my struggles of identity and faith, revealing a community of people who had found liberation through Christ. Each testimony I encountered became a lifeline, a thread connecting me to a vast spiritual network that reached far beyond the confines of my previous life. In those moments, I felt as if I was no longer isolated in my journey. I hungered to learn more, to connect with others who had broken free from the hidden agendas that sought to keep us down. Through online discussions and late-night readings, I stumbled across a clandestine group of Christians who welcomed me without judgment. We gathered in secret, sharing our stories and encouraging one another as we navigated the tumultuous waters of our spiritual awakenings. In their presence, I discovered a sanctuary, a place where I could express the doubts that had once suffocated me. Laughter and tears intertwined as we bonded over our shared experiences, lifting each other as we pieced together the fragments of our pasts. Yet with every moment of joy, I couldn't shake the fears that lingered, like shadows in the corners of my mind. The thoughts of losing my cultural identity and the deep-rooted connections within my family gnawed at my heart. They were a part of me, woven into the fabric of who I had been and who I was becoming. The longer I explored this new community and the teachings of Jesus, the stronger my resolve grew, yet so did the anxieties about what I might lose. I worried about the strained relationships back home, the conversations that would turn into confrontations if I dared to share my newfound beliefs. Every step forward felt like walking a tightrope between two worlds, each one pulling me in different directions. I sensed the urgency of my mission growing, emboldened by the revelations I had received about the spiritual war that raged around us. I recognized the importance of awakening others, of shining a light on the truth hidden beneath layers of deception. This journey was about liberation, not just for myself but for those still caught in the web of misunderstanding. The deeper I delved into this truth, the more resolute I became to face the challenges ahead, knowing that my path was not solely one of personal redemption, but a collective awakening that could change our lives profoundly. In the aftermath of my awakening, I found myself grappling with a newfound sense of purpose that transcended my previous understanding of existence. Each day, I engaged in personal prayers, seeking guidance from Jesus, who had revealed so much to me during my near-death experience. Those moments spent in quiet reflection became sacred as I contemplated the depths of my transformation. I no longer viewed my journey as a solitary experience. Instead, I felt an unmistakable calling, an urging compelling me to share the truth that had finally illuminated my path. Yet with this calling came the weight of responsibility, a realization that my experience was intended to serve a broader mission. One afternoon, I felt a powerful wave wash over me during prayer, as if the divine was affirming my purpose. It was then that I decided to undergo a symbolic baptism, a public declaration of my faith in Jesus. I wanted to embrace the truth wholly and cleanse myself of the doubts and fears that had plagued me for so long. The act of baptism felt like shedding old skin, freeing me from the hidden agendas that had shackled my spirit. Surrounded by the supportive community I had found, the moment was both humbling and empowering. I emerged from the water feeling renewed, yet the stark realization of what lay ahead loomed larger than the exhilaration of my spiritual rebirth. Engaging with the testimonies of others who had also walked a similar path reaffirmed my resolve. Each story shared resonated with my own struggles, echoing the themes of deception, manipulation, and awakening. I learned about others who had faced harsh realities when embracing their truth, some losing family, others their livelihood. I knew incredibly well that my journey would not come without its dangers. I could already feel the weight of potential rejection pressing down on my shoulders as I thought about the reactions of my family and friends who still clung tightly to their traditions. The elite in my community thrived on fear, and I was acutely aware of the risks that accompanied my desire to disseminate the truth. As I embraced my mission to share what I had learned, the urgency grew. I felt compelled to speak out about the hidden agendas that perpetuated division and conflict in our world. The spiritual war was real, and it transcended my personal experience. I stood at the crossroads, eager to confront the deception that clouded not only my life, but the lives of countless others. My heart ached for those still trapped in misinformation, shackled by the same fears that once controlled me. I envisioned hosting discussions, sharing the revelations about how our beliefs had been manipulated by powers that sought to divide us, using technology and propaganda as tools for control. With each passing day, I realized that my voice was necessary, a beacon of hope for those yearning for truth. While the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, I was determined to step into the light of this calling. I knew the journey would test my resolve, pushing me to confront both internal and external conflicts. As I prepared to face the consequences of speaking out, I felt a shift within me. The fear that had plagued my heart began to transform into courage. Illuminated by the love and clarity I had encountered in my awakening, this was but the beginning of a powerful mission, one that could lead to the liberation of many souls still imprisoned by the chains of spiritual deception. The weight of responsibility now matched the intensity of my desire for truth, propelling me forward into unknown territory. I reached a turning point in my life that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. After countless nights of wrestling with doubt, shame, and fear, I made the courageous decision to leave my home and everything I had known. I chose to adopt a new name, shedding the identity that had been intertwined with my past, and stepping boldly into the unknown. This was no mere escape. It was a declaration of independence from the constraints that had bound me for so long. The imagery of the desert resurfaced vividly in my mind, a vast, open expanse symbolizing my quest for freedom. I could feel the warmth of the sun and the weight of the sands beneath my feet, reminding me that every step I took was not just a physical journey, but a deeply spiritual one as well. With each passing day in this new life, I felt a growing desire to evangelize and reach out to others still ensnared in the oppressive systems that had once held me captive. My experience with Jesus had transformed my understanding of faith and truth, and I was now called to share that revelation with those who shared my struggles. Making connections with others who had faced similar challenges filled me with purpose and urgency. Each story I heard resonated deeply within me. They were voices seeking liberation, just as I had sought it. Together, we forged bonds of support and understanding, united by a shared mission to shed light on the deception that had kept us all in the shadows. I confronted the harsh realities of this spiritual war waged in silence, with many still bound by fear of rejection and societal disapproval. The elite who shaped our culture relied on these fears to maintain their grip on power, perpetuating division and strife among us. My heart ached for those still lost in confusion, trapped within the confines of their beliefs. I envisioned a future where we could all awaken and embrace the truth, fostering unity and healing instead of separation. Through my growing network, I sought to empower others to break free from the shackles of manipulation and to recognize the hidden agenda operating within our lives. As I shared my testimony, I felt an exhilarating connection to the greater purpose I was now fulfilling. There was a magic in the way people responded, their eyes lighting up with hope and understanding. I realized that while my journey had been fraught with pain, it was also filled with moments of beauty and transformation. Each conversation became a catalyst for awakening, igniting flames of truth that had long been dormant. I couldn't shake the feeling that in sharing my story, I was not just liberating myself, but also setting a path for countless others still caught in the riptide of deception. Looking ahead, I understood that this journey would require relentless courage and resilience. I faced the looming possibility of estrangement from my family, the people I loved most. Yet, I held on to the hope that one day they might come to recognize the profound purpose behind my transformation. I wanted them to see that while religion can imprison, the pursuit of truth, guided by Jesus, can lead to profound awakening and liberation. As I stepped further into my mission, I felt the weight of my past transforming into wings of purpose, carrying me towards a future where I could be a beacon of hope for others. The call was clear: embrace the truth, share it boldly, and ignite the flames of awakening in the hearts of those willing to listen. As I reflect on this profound journey, I can't help but feel the gravity of what lies ahead. My life has been forever transformed, ignited by an undeniable truth that compels me to share it with the world. I stand here, a witness to the spiritual war that rages in silence, not just within my own heart, but across communities struggling under the weight of fear and deception. We are all part of this intricate tapestry, a divine purpose intertwined with each of our stories. And the questions linger. How many others are trapped in the shadows, waiting for someone to shine a light of truth upon their path? You've listened to my testament, but now I invite you to reflect. Have you ever felt a moment of clarity that turned your world upside down? A moment that made you question everything you thought you knew? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your voice matters. It could be the beacon someone else needs to start their journey of awakening. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit that notification bell. Together we are building a community of seekers, a sanctuary for those yearning for connection and truth. Every subscription, every shared experience is a step closer to breaking the silence that has held so many captive for too long. In our next video, I'll delve into another extraordinary story, one of a woman who unraveled the chains of her past through faith and courage. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm Amir, and remember, the truth is a powerful ally. It is the first step toward your own liberation. Let's walk this path together, embracing the mysteries that await. Before we dive deeper, leave a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now where you are? And if your heart resonates with this journey, subscribe now to Truth from Beyond. Embrace the revelations ahead, because the truth has the power to transform lives. As I lay in the ICU of a conservative hospital in Kuala Lumpur, surrounded by the beeping machines and looming shadows of the medical staff, the weight of my existence pressed down heavily upon me. I was Amir, a Muslim doctor, respected by my community but ensnared by the suffocating expectations that came with the title. The environment was steeped in honor and tradition, each whispered prayer echoing the unyielding pressure to adhere strictly to my Islamic faith. Family and community watched closely, their expectations intricately woven into the very fabric of my life. But under that veneer of normalcy and devotion, my heart wrestled with deeper questions, ones I dared not voice for fear of upheaval. Just days before, I had felt invincible, tackling long hours at the hospital while trying to uphold my duties as a physician and a faithful Muslim. Yet that morning, everything changed when I collapsed during a routine shift. The darkness that consumed my consciousness was unexpected, swallowed by the chaos of my surroundings. I plunged into an abyss, cut off from the world I had known and the responsibilities I had carried with pride. Within that dark void, I felt the pull of something far greater than myself, an unexplainable force guiding me toward a radiant light. It was in that liminal space that I encountered Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, suffusing the darkness with warmth and clarity. Amir. He called my name, and the sound vibrated through me like a gentle wave, wrapping me in love and understanding. In that moment, every doubt I had harbored for years faded away as he began to reveal the hidden truths of my life and the world around me. I saw visions that shattered the boundaries of my previous beliefs. Revelations about the manipulation by the elite, how societal structures were designed to keep us in a spiritual war, fighting one another while they thrived in the shadows. Jesus opened my eyes to the deceptions that had clouded my understanding. As I witnessed the underlying agendas that pervaded our traditions and culture, I felt a mixture of heartache and urgency. It became clear to me that the fear of questioning religious practices was a tool to suppress awakening, mine and that of countless others. The chains that bound us were not just personal, they were societal, woven into the very beliefs that governed our lives. I saw how technology exacerbated these divisions, distracting us from seeking the truth that could lead to reconciliation and genuine understanding. When I awoke in the hospital bed, reality rushed back in like a tidal wave, almost suffocating me. The beeping machines and the sterile smell of antiseptic anchored me once again in a world where I felt increasingly invisible. The revelation I had received from Jesus lingered, a burning fire in my soul, compelling me to break the silence that had long shackled me. Now, I was faced with the enormous responsibility of witnessing the truth that had been revealed to me. The thought of confronting my family, my colleagues, and my community loomed dauntingly ahead. I could feel their expectations bearing down on me, yet the pull of truth and awakening was stronger. I knew I had to gather the courage to share what I had learned, but with each passing moment, anxiety wrapped around me, punctuated by the fear of becoming an outcast in the very life I had lived. I was Amir, a 35-year-old physician, regarded as a pillar in my community, respected for my dedication to the practice of medicine and my unwavering commitment to my faith. Beneath the surface, however, I felt like a figure trapped in a gilded cage, burdened by the weight of societal and familial expectations. Each day, I donned my white coat proudly, yet inside I grappled with emotions I was taught to suppress. The pressures of upholding my family's honor and the strict values of my upbringing suffocated my spirit, leaving me feeling empty and disconnected from my true self. I often wondered if this was the life I was destined to lead, filled with duties, yet devoid of joy and fulfillment. It all came to a head when I suddenly collapsed during a routine evening shift at the hospital. My body betrayed me in a way I had never imagined possible. Everything went black and silent. I was thrust into an abyss where time lost its meaning. In that void, I experienced a profound moment of clarity. It was here, in the depths of unconsciousness, that I encountered Jesus. His presence was not just illuminating, it was transformative. Amir, he called to me, and every thread of doubt and despair began to unravel. I felt enveloped in a love that I had not known existed, a love that transcended the confines of my earthly struggles. As I stood before him, Jesus began to reveal the hidden agendas at play in my life and the world around me. I was shown how the elite manipulated our beliefs, using religion as a tool to control the masses. The spiritual war that had plagued my heart was not just a personal battle. It was a reflection of the larger struggle occurring in society. I witnessed the ramifications of deception that had seeped into everything, from politics to personal relationships, fueling divisions that kept us bound in fear. This was a revelation that shook me to my core. The truth about the manipulation behind our beliefs was staggering, and I realized how deeply I had been entangled in the very web that sought to obscure the light. Upon awakening in the ICU, a strange mix of joy and fear overcame me. I remembered everything vividly. The encounter with Jesus ignited a fire within me, compelling me to confront the emptiness I had felt for so long. It was as if a door had been opened, revealing a world of possibilities that I had never dared to explore. Yet, as I began to process what I had witnessed, the reality of sharing my experience loomed large. How could I convey such profound truths to my family and community, knowing they would view me as an outsider, perhaps even a heretic? The thought of estrangement terrified me, but the urgency of the mission ahead filled me with determination. The journey from that moment on became a delicate balancing act. I felt like I was walking a tightrope, grasping for the truth while navigating a minefield of fear and expectation. Yet, I was not alone. I sought out others who had experienced their awakenings, fellow seekers of truth who understood the complexities of this spiritual war. Together we began meeting secretly, sharing our stories and supporting one another as we grappled with our newfound identities. Each conversation reinforced my belief that hope could flourish amidst the darkness, fueling my desire to share the revelation I had received. It was a delicate dance of risk and reward, each step forward pulling me deeper into a purpose I could no longer ignore. As I continued to reflect on what Jesus had shown me, I realized that the world was in desperate need of awakening. The chains of deception were suffocating entire communities, binding people to a narrative that served only those in power. I felt an urgent responsibility to take action and spread the truth. Speaking out wouldn't just be a personal act of defiance, it had the potential to ignite a movement of awakening. The more I embraced my new identity, the more I understood that while the journey might be fraught with challenges, the pursuit of truth was worth every sacrifice. And as I prepared to step into the light of this newfound mission, I felt ready to confront whatever awaited me, fueled by the love and clarity I had received from Jesus. As I sat in the quiet of my room, surrounded by the remnants of my faith, a profound sense of emptiness washed over me. I had spent years as a devoted Muslim physician, committed to my duties and the teachings of Islam. Yet, during my prayers I began to feel an unsettling void that gnawed at my spirit. The words I recited had lost their significance, reduced to mere sounds echoing in the stillness. I closed my eyes, attempting to focus, but my mind would wander to thoughts of freedom and a quest for deeper spirituality. It was as if a part of me yearned to break free from the confines of tradition that had once provided solace. In the depths of my nighttime rest, vivid dreams began to haunt me. I found myself wandering in endless desert, the landscape stretching far beyond the horizon. The desert, stark and beautiful, mirrored the inner turmoil I felt. As I navigated through the sands, I felt lost, yet strangely compelled to continue. Each grain of sand represented the doubts I had harbored in silence, weighing me down like an anchor. It was during those dreams that I sensed the presence of something greater, a divine force pulling me toward a revelation that was waiting just beyond my grasp. In one particularly vivid dream, I encountered Jesus. He stood before me in the desert, radiant and imposing, yet filled with an understanding that transcended my fears. "Amir," he said, and hearing my name from his lips pierced through the fog of uncertainty that enveloped me. In that moment of clarity, I experienced a flood of insights, truths about the hidden agendas that kept people shackled to fear and deception. Jesus laid bare the realities of our world, revealing how the elite manipulated belief systems to subdue the masses and fuel division among us. What was initially a disorienting vision transformed into a profound awakening. The truths that Jesus shared with me were nothing short of staggering. I realized that the spiritual war one had felt brewing within my heart was not just a personal battle, but a reflection of a larger societal conflict. I took in the implications of his words, grappling with the knowledge that many remained ensnared in a cycle crafted by an elite existence that thrived on suppression. These revelations filled me with urgency. I could no longer remain silent. The weight of this understanding pressed upon me, compelling me to break free from the chains of repression that had governed my life thus far. When I awoke, the revelations flooded back to me like a torrent. The emptiness that had consumed my prayers was now replaced by a burning desire for truth. Each moment began to crystallize into clarity, and I understood that my life needed to change. My thoughts now echoed the urgency to share this newfound awakening, ready to step into the light and break the silence that had long shackled me. I felt an intense connection to those still lost in their spiritual conflicts, and the fight for freedom, both for myself and for others, became the pivotal purpose of my existence. Each day passed with a mounting anticipation for the challenge ahead, knowing that I had been called to illuminate the path forward. The world around me faded to black as I succumbed to the chaos of the accident. One moment, I was driving home, lost in thoughts of my responsibilities as a physician, and in the next, everything shattered. The screeching of tires, the shattering glass, and the piercing pain came in waves as I slipped into unconsciousness. It was in this darkness that an extraordinary experience began, a journey that would change the course of my life forever. In the silence of my mind, I found myself standing in a vast, radiant light. The overwhelming warmth filled me, washing away the weight of fear and confusion. There, in the midst of the brilliance, stood Jesus. I recognized him immediately, though the clarity of his presence was something that transcended human recognition. "Amir," he called, and his voice echoed through my very being, reverberating with a truth that enveloped me entirely. The moments that followed were like an unfolding tapestry of revelation, each thread pulling me deeper into a profound understanding of my existence. As Jesus spoke, I sensed the gravity of the spiritual war that raged around us. He revealed how the elite had crafted a hidden agenda that manipulated the very fabric of our beliefs, keeping us ensnared in a cycle of deception. The truths I had upheld all my life began to dissolve before my eyes as he encouraged me to discern what truly mattered. "You are caught in a distraction," he said, urging me to see beyond the confines of religious dogma to the expansive freedom offered through acceptance and love. These revelations pierced through the layers of confusion I had wrapped around my heart. With each insight, the floodgates opened further, unveiling the struggles faced by my community and society at large. I saw the division festering among people, how fear isolated us from one another, and how easily manipulation could take root when we allowed ourselves to be distracted by petty differences. The implications were staggering. I realized that the spiritual awakening I was experiencing was not just for my benefit but a call to action, a rallying cry to spread this knowledge before it was too late. I could feel an urgency building inside me, igniting a spark of hope I had long thought extinguished. As the light began to dim and reality started to pull me back, I understood that this encounter with Jesus was a pivotal point in my life. I was called to witness the truth, to combat the hidden agendas that threatened to silence those yearning for liberation. Returning to consciousness in the hospital was jarring, the machinery around me buzzing in stark contrast to the profound connection I had just experienced. But the urgency remained. I had a mission now, to share what I had come to know, to awaken others from the slumber of tradition while navigating the fears of losing my identity in the process. This was just the beginning of a journey full of uncertainty, yet resolute in its promise of hope. When I awoke from my coma, reality rushed back with blinding clarity. The hospital room, filled with the sterile scent of antiseptic, felt alien and suffocating. I glanced around, seeing the concerned faces of nurses and doctors, but the weight upon my heart was more significant than my physical injuries. I had experienced something profound, an awakening that had shattered my previous beliefs, but the transformation came at a price. As I regained my strength, I quickly realized that my views no longer aligned with the expectations of my family and friends. The once comforting embrace of my community now felt like shackles tightening around my spirit. My family's reaction was swift and harsh. The whispers of heresy traveled quickly, echoing down the corridors of our community. Friends turned their backs, and the very people I had trusted to stand by me in times of strife now regarded me with suspicion and disdain. I was branded a traitor, a heretic who had dared to question the very essence of our shared beliefs. Each encounter became a battlefield in this spiritual war, filled with verbal attacks, scornful glances, and outright rejection. The burden of guilt settled heavily on my shoulders, and fear gripped my heart, threatening to stifle my newfound clarity. I was torn between the love I held for my family and the undeniable truth I had experienced.